Well, how'd it go? You know, I wasn't even gonna make a video on this topic, and I figure, why not? Why not? There's so much misinformation going around and thoughts, and I figured why not just throw my 2 cents into the piggy bank. Recently we had a dude got shot. He was protesting ICE. What's his name? Pretty, something like that. He got shot and killed. And before him, a young lady was in her van trying to block ICE. And tragic stuff happened. It's kind of, you do things, and you put yourself in those kind of situations, and that's what kind of what happens sometimes. But I've heard a lot of comments and a lot of stuff on Facebook and stuff, and even YouTube. That he should have had a handgun at a protest, or blah 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 and blah blah. And that's 100% not true. In America, we have the right to protest. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We have basic freedoms, basic guaranteed freedoms that a lot of countries, even Western-like countries, don't have. And one of these freedoms is the right to bear arms, to possess a firearm. Now, can you take your handgun, your AR, your AK variant, your shotgun? Can you sling a rifle around your chest and go to a protest? Kyle Rittenhouse did it. Yeah, you can. It's 100% legal. Now, this is where I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit, because I carry a handgun everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. And as much as I believe in the freedom of speech and the freedom to assemble and all that, I don't put myself in situations that are heated, because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going to have to use my handgun. It's a tool. It's a tool it's a self-defense tool. It's not an offensive tool, though you can be used as an offensive tool. I mean, a hammer can be offensive or defensive, or just hammer nails. A hammer's a tool. It depends how you use it. So this gentleman, pretty petty, whatever, I can't remember his name is. It is what it is. He had every right to carry his SIG P320, even though that's a bad choice for a gun. He had every right to carry his handgun to a protest. Every right. That young lady in the vehicle, she had every right to protest ICE. If you don't want ICE arresting people, arresting criminals, arresting child molesters, or whatever, if you don't want ICE arresting people, you can protest that. Where the law is it's not even a gray line, it is a straight out red line in the pavement, where you cannot cross, armed or unarmed, armed or unarmed. Where you can't cross is you can't obstruct an officer, whether it be state, city, federal. You can't obstruct them from doing their job. If I'm driving down the street and I see some cop pull someone over, down over there, and I'm like, nah, that's not right. For whatever reason, I can't pull up behind that cop, get out of my vehicle, walk up to that cop, in between the cop and the person they're pulling and getting a ticket, and tell the cop, no, you ain't give the person a ticket. I cannot do that. For one thing, the cop's gonna tell me before I one time, get back in my vehicle and walk off. If I don't do that, there's a great odd that I'm gonna be cuffed and put into a car for obstructing his official duty. I put my hands on that cop, I'm gonna get tased, maced, or shot. That's what's gonna happen. And that just it is what it is. If I get shot on the street by a cop, it's gonna be because I put my hands on a cop and I should have done that. And I think that's where people, I think, are kind of misunderstanding what is going on out there on the street. Is protest all you want, but you can't get your car and then have your car block a 2-lane road. You can't do that. And then when an officer comes up to you and confronts you, tells you to get out your vehicle, you can't put it in drive and drive off. Now, I think, me personally, I think she did not mean to try to run that officer, the cop over. I can't remember if he was a cop or ICE agent. She didn't mean to try to run him over. I think what happened was, you know, she brought her lover. She brought her lover, and her lover was out there filming, and she was blocking traffic. That agent walked up to her and said, "Get out the vehicle," and he was looking at that agent. And I think the other cop that was also filming stuff was walking around the car. I think she put that car in reverse and kind of realized, okay, this cop's kind of meaning business. Let me get myself out of this situation now. Which again, now you're running from the cops. You know, what do you think is going to happen? So I think she backed up, put her car in drive. By that time, the other officer was already kind of in front of the car because he didn't know what she's going to do. And I honestly believe that she put the car in drive, started driving, turned around, looked out that window. By the time she saw the officer almost on her hood and realized, oh crap, before she could even hit the brakes, I think he had already put rounds through the glass and hit her already. You know, and again, it's what we call lawful but awful. It's an awful thing to happen. Awful, but it's lawful. You know, she turned her car into a 3,000-pound bullet and hit an officer, and the officer defended himself. Now, Mr. Pretty, whatever his name is, kind of the same thing. You have the right to protest. You don't have the right to kick out taillights of federal cars. You don't have the right to put your hands on officers. You know, you can't be protesting in the street. When an officer grabs hold of somebody, you cannot put your body between you and them and the officer to block that arrest. You cannot do that. In that situation, I've seen many videos. I've seen the video slowed down. Seeing videos slowed down to me is a little dangerous because in your mind, you're like, well, he had plenty of time to react. It's a slowed down video. In fast motion, that whole thing was like seconds to grappling, pepper spray, shots, seconds. I think with him, one officer did in fact reach his hand in there and disarm him. Took that gun out of his holster. In the video, it's hard to tell. It sounded like someone yells gun. And that's often the thing that cops do. I don't think it's the best thing because now you're demonizing the gun. By saying gun, now everyone goes from 1 to 10, and I think there should be some other way. I don't know. I'm not a cop. I don't know how else you would do that. But for every situation, yelling gun because someone has a gun doesn't mean that the gun is a threat. You know. But I think the officer disarmed him. The officer who actually shot him in the back, I don't think he, at his angle, saw him being disarmed. I think he heard gun. He was behind him as Mr. Pretty, as he was getting up off the ground. He had a cell phone in his hand, and from the way it looks, he was putting his hand in front of him, getting up. And I'm thinking the cop heard gun, did not know he was disarmed, thinking he was reaching for his waistband in front of him, appendix style, and just let a round two rip through his back. Now people say, oh, he shot in the back. That's wrong, that's murder. No, it's not where you shoot a person, it's why you're shooting a person. And I think that's what people don't really understand, is where you shoot the person is not what makes it a crime, makes it legal or not. A lot of times people say, "Oh, he'll try to run away." There's mathematics involved. There's like a 0.5, half a second from when your brain says threat to you actually pull your gun. It's stacking seconds, and it's just one of the things where a person can turn, start running before your brain realizes he's turning, he's running, but by the time you already pull the trigger, because once that bullet leaves the barrel, you're not taking it back. So I think again with even Mr. Pretty could be. It was an awful, awful thing he died. But it was lawful because he put himself in a situation, gun or not, he put himself in a situation where he was putting his hands on the cops. You don't want to be in a situation where you and a pile of cops are on the ground wrestling. I mean, that's just stupid. Why would you do that for? I would not do that. You get a ticket. And that's another thing also, change. Protesting is great. 100% approve on protesting. Here's the thing. If you really want change, that's going to be in the ballot. Sometimes the ballot, who you vote for, or in the laws. The laws that are passed, laws that are struck down, or laws that are amended, changed. Now, the reason I say who you vote for sometimes, we're demonizing Trump for his immigration policy. And I've read his policy, I've seen all that stuff, and I'm sorry to tell people this, the Trump policy isn't Trump. It is Obama policy 2.0. It is it's the same policy. The only thing different is, those kids in cages, that was Obama. He put the kids in chain link fences. Nothing wrong with that. What was happening was people was coming over illegally, and Juana and Maria over in Mexico had the kid. Wants to bring the kid to America because they have an auntie or uncle who lives in America. They're handing their kid over to these random people since they're heading that way, and they're transporting kids across the border. Obama found out, or the ICE agents during Obama's two terms, found out that some of these kids are with adults who are not their family members. They're just tagged along with an adult crossing the border. And so thus, the kids were separated because you don't want kids with people who aren't their kin. Because if I remember right, there was actually a dude early on caught molesting some kid in one of those detention centers. That wasn't his kid. So they put these people, children and adults, in chain link fence rooms. So there's no privacy. You can't see them doing stupid stuff. If they're doing doing something stupid or illegal or something, they're stopped immediately. So, they make it sound like putting kids in cages is like a doghouse or something. That's really just for their safety. And I remember during the election and everything, people talk about, there's, we have, 3 million kids who can't find their parents because they got separated. And the first question I asked was, then where's those 3 million parents looking for the kids? You have kids that have no parents, but you don't have parents looking for the children. Which tells me the parents didn't come along. The kids got tagged on by some strangers, got separated from the strangers, and now you have parents in Mexico or Honduras or whatever, and a kid in America at a detention center with no mom and daddy anywhere around them. So, this is a lot of things that unfortunately, the media, again, the media is also another bad player in this situation, because the media will twist words and give you a half-truth and then tell you how to feel about the half-truth. Okay? So, if you really want change, change the laws. America has laws about coming across the border illegally versus legal. We have laws. It's not legal to cross the border illegally. Even Mexico, it's not legal for me to cross into Mexico illegally. Every country has those laws. It's just how it is. I think Trump has like 600,000 deported, which is a eclipsed by Obama's 3 million. Using the same ICE agents. We have 2 civilians dead for fighting cops. Who actually knows? Who actually knows or remembers? We have 56 immigrants that died under Obama's care in detention centers after they got arrested. Now, most of those were medical conditions. But we will talk our heads off about these 2 people who got shot by ICE agents, but won't talk about 56 people who died under ICE care when Obama was president. And same thing, we'll protest these two, you know, this, you know, he's a nurse, he's a great person, humanitarian. It could be so. Humanitarians do stupid things sometimes and get themselves shot. You know, what about, what's her name? That got killed by that she was a nurse, that got killed by that Venezuelan, I think it's Venezuelan immigrant that came over illegally. Oh, what is her name? Good grief. See, I'm not good with names. You know, it just, but she got killed. She got dragged in the bushes and murdered. Is anyone protesting her death? You know, how much has the media actually aired her death? You know, so yeah, I think a lot of this is also media's fault, because media chooses to pick what they want to air and how they want to air it. It's like the whole January 6th thing. You know, Trump's talking about, you know, go to the Capitol and make your voice heard and everything. You know, CNN and a lot of these news agencies don't realize that we can go online and hear the full speech. I'm gonna be honest with you, most Americans are too lazy to do that. You know, and CNN will grab that soundbite, edit it down to where they want it, and say, see, he called for violence at the White House, said to go down there and protest, where he didn't. That's not what was actually said. You know, going down to the White House, you know, go down to the Capitol and make it, you know, peacefully and make your voice, you know, heard. Everything he was basically talking about was going down there and just being peaceful. Had nothing to do with rioting inside the White House. Kind of strange. But media does this. Fox does the same thing. Fox will go there and they'll twist words too. You know, that's why also I tell people, we have media out there now that we can look up entire speeches. You know, if a president says something, or a governor, or, you know, in the news says, oh, they said blah blah blah, we have the ability to literally go online and hear the full speech. But again, a lot of Americans, we're just kind of too lazy to look that up. Too lazy to go and find that and listen to the whole thing. We'd rather go to a news agency and let them have a condensed version, and then allow them to tell us the narrative behind it and how to feel about it. And that's kind of a shame. Kind of a shame that we're so weak-minded nowadays. But yes, firearms. Yeah, you have the right to, you know, carry. I would not carry a firearm in a heated situation like a protest. I would not choose to go to a protest carrying a firearm, because emotions run very high, and often, sometimes you notice on some of these protests, a mob of people will now surround a single person, or a larger group will surround a smaller group, and that's how people get shot and killed. I mean, you know, it just, you know, it's a shame. It's a shame to kill someone. You know, again, they have the right to freedom of speech. You know, it's a shame to kill someone because they're busting your window out and trying to reach in there and grab you, and you pop around to their chest. You know, that's kind of, you know, it's on them. It's their fault. You don't break people's cars. You don't step into people, you know, reach into people's cars. There's things you don't do when around a person's personal space. Because when you start breaking those lines and crossing those lines, you know, you will get yourself killed and shot. You know, that's just how it is. So, same thing with protesting. You know, there's you know, protests, but you can't put your hand on cops. You can't break people's property. You can't go on people's private property. You can't, you know, camp out from his front yard and do stupid stuff. You know, Don Lemon just got himself put in jail. Again, media. They kind of think they can do what they want to do because there's no regulating media for the most part. You know, you can't have a church that is having service, and you have a mob of people going into that church protesting, and here's Don Lemon going up to the pastor or whatever and well, I'm an independent investigator, independent press. I'm press. No, you can't tag along to what your protesters and say that you are press to now somehow avoid your obligation of not trespassing on. This is the middle of a church service, people. I mean, what? Who does that? So you can't I can't go with a mob of people and break into a church during services and then say I'm pressed. This freedom of religion. So what you're doing is you're now disrupting freedom of religion. I can't say I'm pressed and now use that as a get out of jail free card. You know, the laws don't apply to me because I'm pressed. No, it does. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So yeah, he went to jail, of course. He got out. In fact, he didn't have to pay bail. That's also we know when you're privileged and rich. He went to jail and got let out. Didn't have to pay nothing. I would have done that. I'll be paying some bail to get out of jail. I wouldn't be getting out free. But that's when you know you're privileged and rich. When you go to jail for trespassing and you get out without paying nothing. But yeah, that's my rant. That's my rant and rumble. But yes, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of protest, freedom to bear arms. Be smart. Don't do stupid stuff, and stupid stuff won't happen to you. That's the rules are stupid. You start breaking them. You know, doing stupid stuff at stupid times and hang out with stupid people. You can't do that. You can't do that. Protest, sit on the curb, put your signs out there, your megaphone out there, your blowhorn, whatever you're gonna do. You want change? Contact your congressman. Go into politics. Whatever you gotta do. But put your hands on cops, that'll get you killed. Put your hands on other people, that'll get you killed. Don't do stupid stuff. The 3 Ds. Don't do that. You'll be okay. That's all I got. That's the end of this rant. It's a shame people died. But again, my honest opinion is what happened to them was a result of choices they made that started that ball rolling. So that's it. Hot pizza, hot key.